Molweni, Sanibonani, Dumela, Abusheni, hello everybody. Welcome back to African Xhosa ASMR. Based on the title, this is going to be a true crime ASMR video where we will be unveiling the devastating case of a young, brilliant South African man named Mazwi Kubheka, whose disappearance has raised serious concerns and questions that remain unanswered till this day. It all started at the Spaza shop, but the big question at hand is, where is Mazwi? How could he disappear without a trace? In today's video, we will be trying to unpack his last few steps before he went missing in order to try and figure out what exactly happened to him. Without any further waste of time, let's get started. I'm aware of the fact that the majority of my subscribers are not from South Africa. For that reason, before we get started with today's case, I would like to explain two important factors that play a crucial role in today's case. The first one is, what exactly is a Spaza shop? According to my own personal definition, a Spaza shop is a convenient store for underprivileged people situated in villages and townships across South Africa. Convenience stores, referred to as Spaza shops, are put in place because people in those remote areas like townships and villages cannot just go to town to purchase a few items, as towns and cities are far away. For that reason, if you would like to buy a loaf of bread, milk, sugar, salt, or anything that is of convenience that you need, it becomes easier for you to just walk to a shop nearby in order to get those items. And that is called a Spaza shop. Spaza shops are, however, more expensive than supermarkets and other shops situated in big towns and cities. To make a practical example, a single loaf of bread would cost around, making an example, 12 rands when you are in town. However, if you are in a township, you could spend about 16 rands for that same loaf of bread. But in a way, it is convenient because if you would have went to town, you have had to spend taxi fare, which means you would spend approximately as little as 20 rands to go to town and another 20 rands to come back from town. So even though you spend 4 rands extra by buying that loaf of bread in a Spaza shop, you practically saved 40 rands that you would have otherwise spent on taxi fare. So Spaza shops help out a lot within underprivileged communities by providing that convenience. Here is a picture to show you what a typical Spaza shop from South Africa looks like. Spaza shops contribute an estimated 30 to 40% of South Africa's food retail spending. They account for roughly 5% of the country's GDP. The sector generates approximately 2 billion around about 35 to 40 billion at times in terms of annual turnover. So, a substantial amount of our economy is contributed by this sector. So, if you're not South African, you're wondering to yourself, that's quite interesting. You have villages and townships with spaza shops that are contributing significantly towards our economy. That's actually a good thing in a way because it's contributing towards Black economic empowerment, because there's a Black family within a village that's actually providing those foods and services, contributing towards economic growth and the welfare within our underprivileged communities. So it's actually a good thing because it's promoting Black economic empowerment within our societies, giving back to the underprivileged. Unfortunately, that could not be further away from the truth. The majority of spaza shops in South Africa are owned by foreign nationals, which then brings me to the second point. Who are these foreign nationals that own spaza shops in South Africa? To make a practical example, using where I'm from, the Eastern Cape, about 90% of local spaza shops operating within the entire province are foreign nationals. More than 90%. I once made an outdoors video for you where I was walking around my village, and I even went on to a spaza shop to buy a loaf of bread to show you what a loaf of bread looks like. And that spaza shop itself is owned by a foreign national, not a local South African. Now, with those two factors at play, let's get back into our case. Who exactly is Mazwi? Mazwi is a 27-year-old man who is absolutely brilliant and highly driven. He was born and raised in Vosloorus, a large township located in Ekurhuleni, Gauteng, South Africa. It lies just east of Katlehong. It is situated approximately 30 kilometers away from the big, beautiful city of gold, Johannesburg. Mazwi has always been a dreamer ever since he was a young boy. He always wanted to provide a better life for himself and his family as he grew up underprivileged in the township. He studied hard and completed his high school studies and later got an offer of acceptance at a university. He went on to join the university called the Vaal University of Technology, where he pursued his higher learning studies. Unfortunately, he was unable to complete his studies due to financial strains, which meant he had to drop out of varsity. Despite dropping out of varsity, Mazwi carried on his dreams and aspiration of becoming something in society and providing a better life for him and his family, of which he did when he got this big, brilliant idea of starting a business. Mazwi became a businessman by starting his own spaza shop in Voslo. This is a picture of what Mazwi's spaza shop looks like. His shop is flourishing and continued to flourish. Mazwi was ecstatic for this because it meant that he was able to bring home the bacon. Sometime later in March 2026, Mazwi received amazing news that his girlfriend eventually also got a job. Mazwi, his girlfriend, and their families were all excited to hear this, more especially considering the fact that the unemployment rate is at an all-time high in South Africa, with over 60% of our youth being unemployed, despite having masters, PhDs, postdocs, etc. The majority of our youth still remains unemployed. So getting a job in South Africa is such a blessing. So Mazwi was so ecstatic and so happy to finally hear the news that his girlfriend, after studying so long and hard, eventually got a job. During this time of his excitement, there was a car that would park in front of his Spaza shop from time to time, but he would pay it no mind. The car, as he described it, was a white bakkie and it had two men inside it. For those who are not South African, a bakkie is a pickup truck. So Mazwi thought to himself that maybe he was being paranoid. There's no way that this pickup truck was keeping an eye on him. So he paid it no mind. And during this time, there was a man who was persistently coming to his Spaza shop, and he goes by the name Zulu. So Zulu would constantly visit Mazwi's Spaza shop, persuading him to sell his Spaza shop to Pakistani business owners in order to get cash. Mazwi did not care about the cash, and he said he's not interested in selling his Spaza shop. Allegedly, this did not sit well with Mr. Zulu, and he kept on persisting that Mazwi sells his business, of which he constantly refused and said he is never going to sell his business for any amount of money. And during this time, Mazwi paid no mind to the white bakkie, and he went on about his life. And then on the 1st of April 2026, that is when Mazwi started to think that maybe he's not paranoid anymore, because now the bakkie stayed there for longer, and it was clearly evident that these people sitting inside the bakkie were keeping an eye on him. On the 1st of April 2026, Mazwi was starting a new month, and then he decided to go and sleep over at his sister's house, as he normally does from time to time. Upon his arrival at his sister's house, he told the sister about the exciting news of his girlfriend getting a job, and he also told her about the pickup truck that was sitting constantly outside his job. And then he told her that that day it came early in the morning at 8 a.m. and it left in the evening at 8 p.m., which is quite suspicious. And in Mazwi's mind, he decided now, if it shows up again the following day, which is the 2nd of April 2026, he will maybe then try to take down the number plate numbers or something like that, because this now is raising suspicions. So Mazwi went to sleep, and so did his sister. They woke up in the morning. The sister prepared Mazwi some lunch for back at work, of which Mazwi in the morning put his laptop and the lunchbox in a tote bag and headed for his Spaza shop. Because it's towards the beginning of the month, Mazwi needed to make a few payments towards rent and his business, basically. So the plan was for him to take his laptop bag and drop it at the Spaza shop and open the Spaza shop and then go to a nearby bank in order to make, the payments. Unfortunately, Mazwi never made it to his Spaza shop that morning. From his Spaza shop, there are 5 houses, and one of these five houses has a camera monitoring the street. This camera would at times pick up Mazwi going back and forth early in the morning and in the evening as he's clocking on and off work. This morning, upon him heading to his Spaza shop, the camera never picked him up going towards the Spaza shop, which means Mazwi was abducted before he even made it to the Spaza shop. Nobody knew what was happening. Mazwi was a very responsible man and nobody suspected anything. So the day went on like usual. But later that evening, around 4 o'clock, people started to call Mazwi's sister and said, "What is happening? The Spaza shop has been closed all day. Where is Mazwi? Where can we buy our, food items? What's going on?" And then that's when Mazwi's sister began to panic because this was unlike Mazwi to do. And then she began to call Mazwi and the phone just rang without anybody picking it up. That raised suspicion, and Mazwi's sister, being concerned, went to the police station in order to file a missing persons report. Allegedly, according to Mazwi's family, the police did not take the case seriously, more especially within the first 48 hours of Mazwi's disappearance. They were left with no answers and no update in terms of what is happening with the case and his search. They went on for days without any lead on Mazwi's disappearance. The case started to gain traction on social media and received political attention from many political parties, and it was posted all over the internet under the hashtag Finding Mazwi. Some people started to report that they have seen Mazwi being put inside a Toyota Corolla that did not have a number plate. Now, when the case started to receive a lot of social media attention, one night, as Mazwi's sister was sleeping at around 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning, she received a random phone call from a number she does not know, knowing that her brother had disappeared. So she answers all phone calls that are, coming in hopes that it would be her brother. So she went on to pick up the call, and it was a man who said, "Are you Mazwi's sister?" Of which she replied back and said yes. And then the people on the phone said, "We have your brother and we demanding cash." The sister panicked and said, "Is my brother alive? Where is he? Can I talk to him?" She went on to describe that she heard noise in the background of someone crying, and that person sounded like it was her brother. So she did what most desperate siblings would do in times like this. She went on to deposit the lump sum of money that was requested by the person on the phone, and it was thousands upon thousands of rands, in hopes that the person would eventually bring back her brother, of which that person never did. Mazwi's sister was now scammed of money, and the brother is still on the loose. Till now, Mazwi has still not been found. A month has gone by, and we're still hoping that he is still alive. The speculation on the internet is that he might have been unalived for his Spaza shop and the fact that he does not want to sell it. Allegedly, the word on the street is that this happens more than one would expect. A lot of people are being told, allegedly, a lot of local South Africans are being told to sell their Spaza shops. The word on the street is that a lot of black South African business owners, in terms of Spaza shops, are being told to sell their Spaza shops to foreign, residents for cash. And if they refuse to, they get unalived, allegedly. So in most cases, allegedly, of course, many South African Spaza shop owners in villages and, what's the other place? Why did I forget it? Townships. In villages and townships are being told to sell their Spaza shops. Should they refuse to, they disappear without a trace. We hope and pray that this is not the case with Mazwi. We hope and pray that he is somewhere out there still alive. We hope and pray that he returns back home in one piece, healthy and unharmed. That is going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next case. Should you have any news of what might have happened to Mazwi, please make sure to contact local authorities or the number displayed on the screen. But please make sure that you do not scam Mazwi's family. They've been through a lot, and scamming is a criminal offense in South Africa. Please let us support Mazwi's family and help find and bring back home this young, brilliant man with a bright future ahead of him. I almost forgot, like I normally do. I would like to leave you guys with word of the day. And today's word of the day is going to be in the book of Luke, chapter 8, verse 17. And it reads, "For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." The second one I would like to read in order to bring comfort to Mazwi's family during this difficult time of searching for him is in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18. And it reads, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I hope that the Lord comforts Mazwi's family and Mazwi wherever he is, and that he comes back home in one piece. Goodbye. Hello everyone, I have an update. I filmed this video on the anniversary of Mazwi's disappearance, which is yesterday, the 2nd of May 2026. And before going to bed, I started to edit the video, and around midnight, I saw an article that states that Mazwi has been found. And here's the article. According to reports, Mazwi was found and he presented himself to local authorities. Allegedly, the perpetrators dropped him off in the middle of nowhere because they felt the pressure from local citizens protesting. They dropped him off in the middle of nowhere. Allegedly, these are undocumented foreign nationals. Upon being dropped off, he just walked around up until he found himself in the middle of the road, and then a taxi picked him up and dropped him off at the police station. The police then interrogated him. According to his sister, he was not in a good physical state. So the police has released him to the care of the hospital. Thank God that Mazwi returned back home safely, and praying for his family that this issue gets resolved by local authorities. Good night.